Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for staying. I know it's been a long day. There's been a lot of weighty issues discussed, important stuff, as Owen said this morning. I'm hoping to lighten up the mood a little bit this afternoon. I'm going to give you stories about householders, people who have actually done work already, who've had measures carried out on their house. I think it's important to say that we are pushing an open door. We've had a tremendously successful programme in the Home Energy Savings Scheme. We're getting about 1,000 applications per week at the moment and 500 contacts per day from householders and contractors. So like I say, a really successful programme. Just to tell you a little bit about the Home Energy Savings Scheme first, and then I'm going to talk to you about our survey which we carried out recently to people who had actually got measures done on their homes. So a little bit about what they thought of SEAI, of you, the contractors, and how they thought about energy and their homes. So the Home Energy Savings Scheme, just to say, it's a scheme for those of you who don't know that provides grants towards attic insulation, wall insulation, heating systems. And to date, over 70,000 homes have applied for works to be done. And so far, 50 million has been paid out in grants on projects that are completed. That means that about 150 million has actually been spent overall in the economy on works that have been done to date. Part of the success, we think, of this is we've made it a fairly simple process for people. It's an online application scheme generally. We've got people who have to put in 4 or 5 pieces of information into a system. They choose their contractor, they choose the measures they're going to get done, they tell us what their bank account is and who they are, and within minutes they get a return response offering them a grant. They accept that and they then have 6 months to carry out the works, after which, once all the documentation is sent in to us, we will make payment to them. So like I say, a fairly simple process. The scheme has only been opened for 18 months, and as you can see, over 70,000 homes being completed is a pretty good result so far. Of those, 18,000 homes were completed in 2009. So far in 2010, we're at about 28,000 homes complete, and we hope to be closer to 40,000 by the end of this year. So, just back to the survey. Back in early summer, we decided we wanted to carry out this survey. So we looked at all the people who had applied online to us. That at that time was about 26,000 people. So we designed a survey asking 3 fairly simple questions, really. We wanted to know a little bit about you. Tell us about your demographics, your socio-economic circumstances, and then tell us a little bit about what motivated you to get involved in the scheme, to carry out the actions. And having done that, what were your experiences end to end? What did you think of SEAI? What did you think of contractors? Were you happy with the works that were completed? We were hugely pleasantly surprised to get a 34% response rate. What we've been told by people in online surveys is usually response rates are between 5 and 10%. So to us that said something about people's interest in energy and also their interest in telling us about their experiences. So just first to talk about who are the people who got involved in the scheme. Well, 17% were single adult households, and that's only about 0.5% of the national average. Why is that? Generally, I think single adult households we found were probably on the lower level of income earnings, so perhaps did not have the funds to get involved or had competing priorities. On the other side of things, of the people who were retired, we were at 17%, and that's 2.5 times the national average. So clearly, people who are retired are getting more involved in the scheme. Maybe it's because they have a little more time, maybe they have more funds available, and we have to look at that. Generally, we found out that it's not the affluent, the more well-off in society that are having works done. It's actually the average. You have people going right from the sort of 20,000, 25,000 household annual income right up, but the average, 50% of them were actually earning under 50,000 per annum into the household. Then just a little bit about the property itself. Looking at dwelling ownership, it was nearly all principal residences, which is quite interesting given what Gudrun said earlier on. She talked about 36% of the German market being rented, the private rented sector, and of that 32% were actually involved in their scheme, which is over 90% participation. For us, only about 4% were actually private rented accommodation. So clearly people are investing in their private residence, but the rented accommodation sector is certainly a sector we need to start looking at. The other interesting factor there was on the geographical spread. In the Dublin and Leinster area, it was well below the national average for participation. Why do we think that is? Well, the Dublin area particularly tends to be hollow block, and as you'll see later on, most of the works that were done in wall insulation were in the cavity wall area, and clearly that's not possible with the hollow block. So we think that may be a reason. So that would point us to looking at deeper retrofits, which we'll talk about a little later on. Again, on the mortgage side, just to say to you that people, about 56% of people had mortgages on their property. And again, I'll just refer back to that in a little while on other things that we've looked at. Okay, so then looking at, another question we ask people is, how are you financing your measures? And you'll see there that almost all of the measures were financed through savings. So very few people were taking out loans or mortgage top-ups. And that's beside the fact that 56% of the people actually had mortgages, they were actually funding the measures out of their own savings. So we need to think about that as well. Just to tell you a little bit about the applications and completions, as you can see there, the majority of people actually got roof insulation, cavity wall done, and of the people who applied for them, over 90% of them were actually following through and doing the works. Whereas at the other end of the scale, if you look at the external wall insulation, only 4% of people were actually applying for that measure, and only half of those people were actually carrying out the works. Of course, this is probably because the external wall insulation is the most expensive measure currently available through our grant scheme, and you can see there that the average spend, including the grant, is only about $3,000 at the moment, which again points us to we need to encourage people to get involved in deeper retrofits. Where it's not possible to do the cavity wall, you need to look at how are you going to encourage people in whatever way to actually invest deeper in their houses. When we looked and talked to people about what influenced their investment, what motivated them, the resounding answer was energy savings. People were looking for energy savings. Behind that was comfort gains. They wanted to improve the comfort of their house. And the encouraging factor for them was the fact that there was an incentive there with the grant available. When we asked people about their satisfaction, again, just to look at that, 91% of people were happy with their contractor. I think we were somewhat surprised with that, and intrinsically we wouldn't have thought that satisfaction with the construction sector was that high, but it is, and I think that's underpinned by the fact that we have strong quality assurance, we have codes, we have standards, we have inspections in place, which obviously increases people's level of satisfaction. When we talk to people about their satisfaction with SEAI, their end-to-end process, over 95% of people were happy with the service with SEAI. The information that was available on the web to them, their end-to-end experience with us. But also very satisfying for us was that when we asked would they recommend the scheme to others, a resounding 98.5% of people said they would, and would also be happy to carry out more measures on their houses. So just to sum up, we now know more about participants. There's a good cross-section of society getting involved, and they're happy with their experience. These positive experiences, we think, will build market confidence. It leads to replication. People give references, they give recommendations. Anecdotally, we know that when people get works done in a community, they talk to their neighbours, they tell them about their good experience. The neighbour then becomes interested, decides to get work done. talks to their own contractor, which then possibly leads that contractor into getting registered with the scheme. All of this is a circle that's positive and that builds activity in the market. Things we've learned about what we need to develop. We definitely need to move beyond shallow measures. As you can see, people are very happy to invest in the less costly measures. But once it gets to those more costly measures, there is a little bit of a barrier there. We believe the barrier is in financing, given that people are funding almost completely the measures from their own funds. So we need to move on beyond that and look at financing options. And again, I was really happy to hear Tracy talking earlier on about BGE, and we've certainly been working strongly with them, and the fact that they are looking at a save-as-you-pay option up to a certain level. And then I was really happy to hear Brian is partnering with Bank of Ireland on their side of things. And we know we've been out talking to the financial institutions, and certainly we've been met with a positive reaction. They're looking at this area, they know they need to get involved in it, and there are certain institutions that are thinking about coming to the market quite soon with products. Just for the future, for us, we want to look at detailed bill analysis, and we're going to take a smaller grouping of the people who have worked with us and corresponded with us on surveys, and we're going to analyse their bills so we can further prove the proposition about energy saving and how, if you invest in your home, not only will you increase the value of that home, but you're going to reduce your energy bills and save. We're also going to talk to, some of you are here, the contractors, to find out a little bit more about you, how you find the service with us and how you think we can improve the offerings. Thank you.